get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we got that power. Don't stop until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we got that power.
Good morning, good morning. You are now tuned into the Elife Power Lunch Show with Dr. Baruch and Chris Murray. Hello.
Hello. How are you, Chris?
I am wonderful. Happy New Year. It's finally spring.
Yes, this is the beginning of the new year.
Yes.
This is when we heard the birds, didn't we? The
Yes,
birds
we
and
did.
the bees and
We did.
the buds on the trees and babies get made and all kinds of good stuff happens right at the beginning of the new year when everybody wants that fresh start.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. Not in the middle of winter as we transition from December 31st to January 1st. That's not the beginning of the real new year. That's the beginning of the new year that...
It's convenient for marketing.
Yeah, somebody else decided to start the middle of the year in the middle. I mean, the new year in the middle of winter.
In the middle of winter, yeah.
So what's up?
Well, today is National Single Parents Day.
Woohoo!
Yeah, so shout out to
Gotta
all
love
the
that.
single
That's a growing
parents out
mob.
there. Yeah, that is true, and that's the reason that I wanted to bring it up today, just to kind of bring it to the table and see what the thoughts are, because I know a generation or so ago it wasn't like that. Couples were together through thick and thin, and now I think that's not necessarily the case. Maybe little speed bumps can unravel what would have in the past been something that you would just have to suck it up and deal with.
Right.
And so it has left our families and our children and our community in a place that is, to say the least, different.
Yeah, or another word, devastated.
Devastated, okay.
Yes, in decline. Okay, yeah. A whole lot of D's could probably fit in there. Defeated.
Yeah.
And no, not that all of us have come out of that broken, but definitely I think we could have been a lot stronger had our family unit stayed tight.
Right.
Because that not only represented a wall of protection, but it was like psychological support, emotional support.
Right.
When you could go to grandma and say, Grandma, I had a rough day today, or so-and-so, hit me in school today, or so-and-so called me a bad name, or, whatever it is that you might have, encountered. You had these family members who weren't playing video games, who
That's
weren't
right.
looking at their cell phones and preoccupied with cell phone activity, but in fact had time to look at you and talk to you and rub you on your head and sit you on their lap and talk to them about whatever it is that was going on in your mind. Now you don't have any of that. Now you talk to the folk out there, who are in your class or on the street,
Right.
or who on Facebook. You post all your stuff up on Facebook. Had a terrible day today. So and so called me, or whatever, and there it is. Now this whole chain of communication starts going back and forth between you and possibly that person and other people who
Right.
don't have clinical knowledge, and nor do they have familial interest. They're not really as concerned about you as, of course, your parents and your sister and brother and grandmother, auntie, uncle, and so on. So, yes, there is a different world that we live in today, and the family has been, I think, decimated.
Right.
And I think in large part it has to do with technology. When you think about the fact that the world is a lot smaller as a result of technology. You can have a text message conversation with somebody on the other side of the world
That's
in
right.
a second, and we need to consider the impact. Has the benefit outweighed the negative?
Right.
So
Right, exactly. And to go back on what you were saying about just having, grandma or the family just to support what you're doing or to be there when you needed to talk, I think that comes true from a relationship perspective too, because I think back in the day, they may have been a little bit more in your business in terms of, making sure that everybody is kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing, having that support emotionally, if you're going through something as a husband or wife, just to have that and have examples to
Yeah.
follow.
And a wall to make sure, a community wall to make sure that, okay, we're not going to just let y'all break up.
Right, exactly.
So you were gonna sit y'all down, and we're gonna find out what's going on, and we're gonna sort it out so that you all can, because they have an interest in your success as well.
Right.
And now we don't have people that have an interest in your success. In fact, many times people are more motivated by your failure, just so that they can then find comfort in knowing that they're not as bad off as you are.
Right.
So yeah, that whole hedge of support that we used to have and protection that we used to have has eroded, and we're kind of an individual. All we have is that cell phone. Can you imagine what like 20 minutes would be like without a cell phone nowadays? Oh my God!
Right,
where's my
devastating. Another
phone?
D word. Like,
Right,
back
right.
to that.
Another. Yeah. So we do have some recovery work to do.
Yeah,
And
most
I don't know where and how it's going to start. I guess it's probably going to have to be an app.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
going to come any other way.
That's
at this
right.
point, and be successful.
that's
Yeah.
right.
So, but the family, this is National Single Parent Day. So
Right.
I did that for a stint. I had my son from 14 until he graduated from college, and I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful that I took the steps to make sure that he was with me. My
Mm-hmm.
3 daughters were with their mother. And, of course, we wished, I think everybody wished that the family could have stayed together, but due to circumstances, it was the right thing to do in order to maintain balance and peace and happiness.
Right.
So we did that, but it was tough. And I remember the looks on their faces, not understanding why, there's a daddy's house and a mommy's house now. What's going on with that? When are you coming home?
Right.
Like, well, home is a little different now. So I don't necessarily celebrate the Single Parents Day, but I recognize that there is a reality that we need to focus in on. And if nothing else, if it's going to be a day, let it be a day like, the Cancer Awareness Day. Let's make people aware of what the challenges are, what the pitfalls are, what we need to do in order to not increase these numbers, but decrease these numbers and increase the numbers of us that are choosing good mates and living with them for the rest of our lives.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Well, we do have a special guest in the building today,
Indeed.
and I don't want to delay the introduction of Grand Master Dennis Brown. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well and really deep into this conversation you're talking about, because I've been married somewhere around 52 years. Well, 46 years, but we've been together 52.
Wow.
I can tell you a little bit about that. It's not an easy task. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah. Well, we're thankful that you would come on, and family isn't the only thing that you've done for 52 years, or maybe you did a little more than 52 years in this other area, or less. We'll learn today. Anyway, you're a grandmaster, and we're not talking about Grandmaster Flash.
No, not quite that.
He might have moved like Flash,
Oh, yeah,
but grandmaster in a way, in a discipline that probably has contributed to the maintenance and sustenance of that marriage that you've been able to hold on to. And that when you're disciplined in anything, many times you tend to be more disciplined in all things.
Well, it's interesting because we've been together 52 years. I started studying martial arts about 52 years ago also. We were high school sweethearts, homeroom sweethearts, if you will. And so people say, oh, how has that worked doing this martial arts, this kung fu, and traveling all over the world and training 6 days a week and all that? And I tell them the good part is she doesn't know anything different. As long as we've been together, I've always been this martial arts nut, if you will. But so it's worked out pretty good for us in that sense.
That's great. That's great. Again, we're talking to Grandmaster Dennis Brown, and a little bit more on your history. You started 52 years ago. What has happened? We've heard, just in speaking to you before we got on the air, we heard about you doing movies and being in that space, and even considering doing more. But what are some of the significant accomplishments that you've made in your life?
Well, you know, I spoke about starting this when I was in high school, but I went to a high school here in Washington, D.C. area, Eastern High School, and the truth of the matter is that that year they were number one in football, basketball, track, baseball, everything. I was too short for basketball, too little for football, too slow for track, and I still can't catch a baseball to this day. So I kind of got into martial arts because I found that it was something that I could do, never thinking that this would be something I would be doing 50-some years later. I actually, like everybody else, I went to Howard for a few years and I ended up going into the government as a programmer, computer programmer, pretty good at it because I was a youngster working for Fortran, programming in Fortran and COBOL, working for UNIVAC and military and all like that, and kind of stumbled into martial arts because I tried it out because some friends were doing it in Banneker, which was right across the street from Howard University, in the basement. And I found out, wow, here's something that I can do. I mean, I don't have to be big, I don't have to be fast, I just have to be willing to work really hard. So I kind of backed in the door of this martial arts thing, never thinking that this is something that would be a career. But it has turned out to be something that has been very successful for me. I grew up for those folks that in the DC area, I grew up in Northeast DC on a little street that was only a 1.5 block long called Rom Street. I still tell people, I've been to Tiananmen Square and Red Square, and I've been to Africa, I've been all over South America, I've been all over the world. But the truth is that in reality, I'm still just this little kid from Rom Street in Washington, D.C., and sometimes I find myself in Siberia somewhere where I went to coach some teams there. And I thought to myself, isn't this amazing? Something like martial arts has taken me all over the world.
I want to jump in.
Yeah.
Because I invited you to speak at an event that I had at Howard University probably 25, maybe 30 years ago.
Okay.
And you started, I guess one of the questions might have been, looking in the rearview mirror of life, what would you say is something that you would like to be known for, recognized for? What would you like people to say about you? And I remember a comment that you made. I don't know whether you'll remember it like I remembered it. Maybe I remembered it wrong too, but I would say you said that I just want to be able to tell some people that I've been some places and I've seen some things.
I remember when I first came up with that, I was in Nanjing, China. We were fortunate enough to be the first group of Americans to go into communist China in 1981, 82. And I was they still say that I'm the first African American to ever come to communist China. Back then we called it Red China. The first one to go to the Shaolin Temple and all of that. And, I remember sitting there with a friend of mine, Peter Morales. We were out in the field working out and we're thinking, boy, how lucky are we? We're in mainland China studying with the Shaolin masters of the world. And, we're going to have some history. We automatically knew in February, Black History Month, I'm going to get some recognition because I'm the first. Who can be the first of anything? Right. But to go to China. And I remember telling him that that thought came to my head. He said, when all this is over, when I'm done with all this, I don't look forward to sitting around telling my story, and I don't know if anybody's ever going to want to hear my story, but when I'm sitting in a rocking chair on my porch, because we had those back then, I just want to be able to look at the little kids when they run around throwing rocks at me. I just want to be able to look out at them and say, you know what? I've been some places and I've done some things, and at that time that was good enough for me. But probably 25 years later, I think back on what you've just said, and it's still good for me. I just hope that at some point when this whole thing is done and I'm sitting on maybe the balcony instead of the back porch, and people are looking at me saying, "Look at that old gray-haired man." I'll be able to say to myself and to my friends, I've seen some things. I've been some places and I've seen a few things, and it still works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, your words have left an impression on me. That's for sure. Because
Yeah.
I think about that when I think about things that I want to do in life and places I want to go, I can reflect back in my memory, and sometimes it's not even you that I see. Sometimes it's just me.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, I just want to be able to say that I've been some places and I've done some things. And then when I see you talking today, I'm like, wait a minute, I've heard this brother speak. And we're going into a direction that I've seen him go before. Let me get there before he gets there so he knows that I've been a good student,
Well, that's interesting. I just had a test of a bunch of little youngsters, and we've turned out many. I probably have 500 or 600 black belts at this point. But I sit back and I get called to do movies and seminars and all those things. But just this Friday, talking to a bunch of young kids that were going up for their gold belts and green belts, I looked at the parents and said, the dirty little secret about me is that I know I get all these accolades for martial arts. I said, but the truth is that I got out of the martial arts business 25 years ago. I don't think of myself as being a martial artist. I'm really now in the character development business. I think that the Creator gave me this gift to help me to train tomorrow's leaders. I think that's what we're really in the business of doing, character development, the tenets of martial arts, the lessons of martial arts, getting folks to understand that if you live the lessons of martial arts, it's going to make you a better person. The discipline, the self-confidence, the focus, all those things that makes you a great martial arts fighter also makes you a great fighter in life.
Right.
And so, if somebody says, what in the world are you still doing? And you're right there at the door of 70 years old. Why are you still out here kicking and punching and and all that stuff? I say to them that I don't look at myself as a karate kung fu master. I look at myself as a character development. I'm here for a reason, and hopefully people still have some use for the values that we bestow upon them through martial arts, because they will listen to me when they won't listen to the teachers, listen to me when they won't listen to their parents, because they think we're somewhere a cross between Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan and all that. So when we say something, they go, wow, it's very deep, because Grandmaster Brown said it, when they don't realize that a lot of this stuff came from my Uncle John Henry in Salisbury, North Carolina. I mean, wisdom comes from many, many places, and I use it in martial arts. So again, martial arts is my job, but I think that my calling is something I hope much bigger than that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Now you have or had some schools, martial arts schools in the area. Tell us about that.
That's interesting, because I was talking to a good friend of mine, Grandmaster June Reed, and he said, do you ever stop by your schools anymore? And I said, what do you mean? He said, do you ever stop by your schools? I said, sir, I go to my school 6 days a week. He said, you don't still teach, do you? I said, yeah, I teach 6 days, but you just teach the black belts. I said, no, I teach the kids, I teach the beginners, I teach everybody. He said, well, you're very successful. You've had schools running consistently, continuously since 1970. Has anybody done that? And I thought, I never thought about that. I have never stopped teaching since 1970. Every week since then, I've had a school open somewhere. And so I have young guys that are running schools. They come to me for information. Can you tell me how to run a school? Can you tell me how to be successful in the business of martial arts? And I say to them, yeah, do you know how many schools I've had? And they go, well, no. I said, well, I've had 22.
Wow.
And they go, well, how many do you have now? At that particular time, I said, I have 4. So now do the math. How many of them closed up? I said, it's like life. You look at the successes, but success is built on a lot of failure, a lot of learning experiences. And for me, I tell folks, you're not successful at the end because you were just smarter than everybody else. Sometimes it's just that you don't give up. I had an accountant once tell me when I was in my school on 5th and Kennedy Street, and people may remember that. It was a rough area at that time. And somebody said to me, said, you're so successful at this. And I said, yeah, but my accountant said, I looked at your paper, and you realize that technically you're out of business. Right. But you just haven't closed, you're just too crazy to close the doors. Right. And I said, how far am I behind? 7 months in the rent. You're out, you understand you're out of business. For me, it was like in fighting. If you don't refuse to lay down, you don't lose.
That's
if you
it.
just keep swinging, you can't lose if you don't stop swinging. So I think my success has just been that I always believed that I could. I always believed that each failure, each challenge was just a learning experience. It gave me a chance to see what I've done wrong. So I tell people I'm successful now because I've done all the things wrong. So if you come to me and ask me, can you tell me how to make my martial arts business successful? I said, well, I can tell you all the things not to do because I've done all of them. I've made all the mistakes. And so therefore I can keep you from making those, and your journey will be a lot smoother. You're still going to have challenges, but maybe not as many because I have a little experience.
Right.
When I think about Chris, I think about somebody who is deceptive in the sense that she looks like, oh no, she's a pushover. Oh, this is going to be easy. I'm going to, but then you get a chance to talk to her and even work with her, and you realize that, oh, she's a fighter.
Yeah.
She got some fight in it, and I know that over the course of probably the last 20, 30 years, we've seen an increase of violence against women, and Soleil and the brother over there who've opened up their shop and kind of brought attention to, training women so that they could better protect themselves. Your students, over there. Yeah. But tell us, how that has, how working with women and how not just martial arts for training purposes so that we can go and elevate and go through all the belts, but actually training people to literally just protect themselves on the streets, and in their homes sometimes. How has that maybe changed your business, and what have you done to address that to help men and women protect themselves in just day-to-day life?
Well, being a father of two daughters, I have two daughters, believe it or not. And to be honest with you, I remember telling them when they were very young, there's two things you have to do before you can do what you want to do. And that is, number one, you have to get your second-degree black belts in martial arts, and you have to finish college. After that, dad's out. You can do whatever you want to do. And I remember when they got their second degrees, and they both graduated and from universities, Fordham and different, and they came to me and said, okay, we've done everything you told us to do. Can we now do what we want to do? And I said, yes. One immediately moved to New York, to the Bronx, and got into what she wanted to do. The other moved to Hollywood, and they both still live in LA and New York today. Okay. But the challenge has always been there. And they said, but why would you ask them to do that? Not necessarily martial arts, but do everything you need to do to be able to protect yourself. The martial arts was about the physical side. I realized I can't get to New York, I can't get to LA, and I need to feel comfortable that in basic situations, I know that you can handle yourself. And as I think about martial arts, as you hear, it's not just the physical side of it, it's that you have the mental tools you need to be able to deal with people. Because you can study Tai Chi. They didn't have to study Kung Fu and fighting and full contact in the cage with me. They could study internal arts, knowing when to yield and when to redirect, and knowing when to listen and when to attack. And that's, again, not just physically, but these tools that you learn through martial arts is going to help you in everything you do, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, I don't care what you choose to do. You have to know when to listen. You have to be a student of the art of war, if you will. And a lot of people read that and think, well, that's a book about warfare. I said, no, it's a book of strategy. It's understanding how to listen and when to listen and when to move and when to attack. They had to be able to be educated because, again, I didn't care what field they went into. It's just that whatever you're talking about, I need to know that you know what you're talking about. That's a big part of it. And again, in martial arts, it's not just defending, but when you decide to attack, you had better have some tools.
That's right.
You had better have something that works. And so the lessons that I taught my daughters, and I've tried to teach all the ladies in my martial arts, is that there are no victims. There are people who are just not prepared. Women, are they physically weaker? Some are. Some are much stronger than men. But I had a little guy sparring in my school the other day, and he was just whimpering around, and I said to him, go ahead and fight. He said, well, I don't want to hit a girl. And I looked at the young lady, and I said, well, she will hit you, and very hard. It became a thing of respect. The martial arts for me was, again, a tool for guys that the youngsters when they were growing up, 6, 7, 8 years old, yes, we always taught them do not hit girls. Do not hit girls and not hit girls. Well, a lot of our young men interpreted that as mean, well, because girls are weaker. And I don't care how skinny or frail you are, you can't hit a girl because, you know, she's weaker. And we got to learn that you should respect girls because they are our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, but not because they're weaker. And to teach that lesson, you know, in the ring, girls fight girls and men fight men, but that's no different than lightweight fight lightweights and heavyweight fight heavyweights. It has nothing to do with who's stronger and who's weaker. In my school, everybody fights everybody. Because I tell them there is no society anymore where there are women's jobs and men's jobs. There's things that men are supposed to do and things that women are supposed to do. Women can do anything that they choose to do. So when you get in the ring, put on the headgear, put your gloves on, and all it takes sometimes is just one of those guys that's kind of hanging out. And I'm talking about an 8-year-old or 12-year-old, and have one of my girls kick him in the head really hard. And I look at him and say, let me explain something to you. Defend yourself.
Right.
This is a lady. Yes, it is a young lady, but she is not the girl that you've been told about that's defenseless. And once they get that mentality, that way of thinking, it follows them through life. She's a girl, she's a lady, she's to be respected for what she does. She's our family. But it has nothing to do with weakness, because I've had girls knock me across the ring. And martial arts in that sense is kind of a tool that we use. And so, you know, it's been, again, a part of that lesson that we learned that martial arts teaches you. Because I don't know if you know, but in those kung fu movies, have you ever noticed that the ladies fight as hard as the guys?
Right.
Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 guys to beat them in the movie. So that's always been a part of their story. I mean, the women in China, the strong women in China, were always depicted on screens as, you know, you had to have 2 or 3 guys to fight them. Yeah. Once you had, if you were weak, it was because you weren't prepared, not because you were just physically weaker as a person, mentally or physically or spiritually.
Right, and I'm glad you bring that up, because despite my appearance, weak appearance,
it's not weak. It's just slim.
Slim. Okay. I'm not that big, but I spent a good part of my childhood in the sparring ring, and it was one of the best times of my life. Some of my best friends are from that time. And I made it all the way to brown belt. I did taekwondo, and I'm still very sore about that, not just taking that one next step. I went to boarding school, and so I wasn't able to complete it. And every day I'm like, you know, maybe I should go back. But you've spoke some truth that I can definitely attest to, having that personal experience, and just the fighting is probably the smallest part of it. It's about the discipline, the camaraderie, the strategy. You know, when you're in that ring, you never know what to expect. And I am, teeny. So when I would spar girls, and when you're younger, it goes by age, not so much by size. And so I be this big, and I get a girl that's this big, but we're the same age, and I had to do what I had to do. And so I think that it's something that's definitely important, that we should have more exposure to it as children, because like you said, it's something that sticks with you as you go on. And me, again, I haven't practiced in literally years, but I know that if I was in a situation where I'm walking down the street or something and someone attacked me, I know it'll come back like that. I might be a little rusty, but I'm not just gonna go down easy. So, I'm glad that you're able to come and share. And shout out to Felix Cortez and the Artist Taekwondo Academy. That's who I studied under. And, maybe I'll make my way back to the ring before it's over.
Finish the job. You only got one step to go. Yes. So I'm going to tell them that if you're listening, look her up, drag her back in there. It was interesting because just this weekend, I have a young lady named Gabby. She's, 7 years old, 8 years old, something like that. But she's just an amazing athlete. She does weapons like crazy and does forms, but she won everything at a tournament this week up in Philadelphia. Won first in forms, won first in weapons. They said, but you're a kung fu guy, y'all don't fight, do you? Well, she got in there to fight also. They were shocked, first of all, she could fight, and then they were shocked that they didn't separate boys and girls at that age, because they felt like, well, there's just not enough of them.
Right.
Well, she won. and then she went on to beat everybody in grand championship. And I wasn't there. I'm always there, but I wasn't there for this one. And somebody told me that the little boy threw his helmet down, so he stomped out of the ring, and he wasn't upset because he lost. They said he was screaming, "I lost to a girl. I lost to a girl." And I said, well, he's learned a lesson, because get ready, buddy. In this society in which you live now, girls are going to be in the marketplace, and you're going to be competing against them for everything that you want to do. So make sure that you're just prepared.
Right.
Don't assume because I'm a man, that's a girl, I automatically get the job. That's not the case anymore. You don't automatically win if it's the most prepared person.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what's up. Now, you've encountered some pretty significant, famous people out there over the course of your life. Tell us about some of the encounters that you've had.
Oh, shoot. I guess I've met them all. I've met everybody from Ali to Bruce Lee. I met Jet Li when he was at the Shaolin Temple, when he was still called by his Chinese name, Li Liangjie. You know, the last name is first over there, so if you put the last name at the end, his name is Liangjie Li, which we got Jet Li. But I was there at the Shaolin Temple when they were filming his very first film called Shaolin Temple. Didn't know who he was or anything like that at that time, but took pictures with him, and years later found out. But I've done bodyguard. I've done work with the President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, which my wife worked for him for 4 years. But I know Chuck Norris. I know Billy Blanks. I know Wesley Snipes. You name them, Ali. All of the. It's just been an amazing career, again, for a little kid from Rome Street, to be able to say, I look on the wall, and anybody who's in Sinbad, anybody, you name them, we've worked with them. Somebody looked up on my wall and said, "Is that RZA from?" Yeah, I said, "From Wu-Tang." Well, the funny story about that was when they came by my school, little hoodies up and everything, to do a little publicity piece. They came walking in, and I called my daughter, and I said, "Guess what? The Wu-Tang gang is coming up to my school." And she said, "Oh, Baba, please do not embarrass us. It's not the Wu-Tang gang, it's the Wu-Tang." That's to tell you, I was so into martial arts. I'm always in the gym. A lot of the top people, the people that I've had a chance to work with, they were just people in the industry. I'm going up to the Urban Action Film Festival this fall because I got a chance to go to China and make a movie in Hong Kong, Taiwan. Believe it or not, and I worked with this old guy and this crew and came back. It's a pretty good movie. I mean, again, one of the first blacks to be able to do a movie there. But I just found out, believe it or not, from this Urban Action Film Group, they called and said, "Your old friend is going to be here. We're bringing in this guy, Lu Feng, from Hong Kong, that's going to be coming in, and we're featuring him because he's one of the top film producers and stunt people in Hong Kong." And I said, "Really?" So I looked it up, and I started to realize that they started mentioning the director of the film I did, Chang Che. Well, I knew who he was. I didn't know who he was, but I knew who Chang Che was. And I started reading his bio and realized they said, no, he was the godfather of Kung Fu movies in the 60s and 70s. When all these chop suey movies started, this was the guy that made Run Run Shaw and Run Me Shaw, and he's the greatest director that ever that produced films over there. I think, wait a minute, that was the old guy that was producing my film. Now this sounds kind of crazy all these years later. They talked about how he developed this movie called The Five Venoms, the Five Deadly Venoms, and these five guys went on to become the greatest martial arts in movies. They showed films of Bruce Lee studying with this old guy and studying with this crew. And I'm looking at it online, I realized, well, that's the four guys that were working with me. Right. All these years later, I'm getting calls saying, "My God, you worked with Chang Che. You got a chance to study with the Five Deadly Venoms." I'm thinking, no, that was just Lou and the guys on set. Right. You know, it's a crazy story because my life was a lot of that. A lot of the folks that I got a chance to work with, I didn't know we were doing anything big. I mean, they came out with this thing, the Black Kung Fu Experience, talking about how myself and also Ty Cassell and Ron Van Cleef, how you guys were the forerunners to martial arts in the inner city and how you kept it up. And I told the guys, I said, wait, you know, I didn't know we were doing any of that stuff at the time. I was just running a little school on Georgia Avenue, trying to do some Kung Fu. Years later, I hate to go back and say this again, but I realized I've met some people and I've done some things, but at the time I was just having so much fun doing it. I was just enjoying the experience so much that I look back at it now, and people look on what we call our celebrity wall, where I have pictures of just every conceivable person you can see. Somebody will walk up and go, "Is that the guy from the Olympics?" And I go, "Yeah." Well, is that Joe Frazier? Is that Muhammad Ali? And yeah, during my career, I guess I've run into all of these guys. I've been at events, or I've done stuff with these guys. But at the time, if you ask me, who was the most famous person you met? And I tell them, well, my mama, I guess, because because without her, I would have never met any of these people. So I'm asked that a lot of times. Who are all the movie stars? They look up there and they see the rappers, they see all the different people, and I say, guys, I was just doing kung fu. It's this industry I found myself in. It's the blessing of being able to. I was just trying to make differences in people's lives. Back then, it was just about training and having fun doing kung fu, riding back and forth to New York, looking at kung fu movies. Later in life, it became something that I just enjoyed so much that my mother, and I say that because before she passed some few years back, she said to me, and I guess it must have been almost 5 years ago now, because I just turned 65, and I remember her saying to me, Dennis, you've had a good run with this kung fu thing now. It's been 45 years or so. Don't you think, you're getting a little older now, don't you think it's time you get a real job? And I said, Mom, but I've had 22 businesses. I've been all over the world. I've done shows and movies. I've worked with Jerry Phillips. I had on the Morning Sound for years. Who's done that? And I said, I've done so many things. She said, yes, but I know it's time for you to get a real job, because you need to get something. What are you going to do about when you retire? Well, she passed on. And years later, I thought about it when somebody asked me, how long are you going to do this martial arts? And I said, I never thought about retiring. And I realized then, mothers are never wrong. She said that, what are you worrying about your retirement? In order to retire, you have to have a job. Right. And she was right. I've never had a job. I got up every morning, looked in the mirror and go, I go to a kung fu school every day of my life and get a chance to train and do all like that. I realized then, because I grew up many years in my grandfather's house, because back then you stayed with whoever you had to stay with to survive. That's another whole story. Yeah. But he was a Baptist minister, a country style minister, and he always said, I don't have a job. It's a calling. Ministers don't have a job, well, some do now. Yeah. But the real ones, it's a calling. And if it's a calling, how do you retire from it? When do you stop preaching? When do you stop putting the word out? So I tell folks, they say, well, when are you going to retire from this kung fu thing? And I quote and I say, well, in order to retire, I guess you have to have a job. And because I don't have a job, I guess I'll just keep doing what I do as long as people want to hear what I have to say. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I thought that was one of my questions, because this morning, I have a trainer who I think has a personal vendetta against me to inflict as much pain as I will allow her inflict upon me. Yes. Yeah. So, but I thought about it, and listening to you earlier before we got on the air, and you talked about, you're not doing the flying that you used to do. And I just wonder, the impact of the years of fighting or demonstrating and instructing, have you found that to work to your benefit or detriment?
In a time when you look at all the greats, from Chuck Norris to Billy Blanks to, all of them, they've all had hip surgeries. Some of the greatest kickers, most of the top martial artists that you know of have had hip surgeries, knee surgeries. I tell the guys, all my stuff still works. I'm right there at 70. Everything I do still moves well. I tell people I can do everything I could do at 22, except I have to warm up 8 times longer. And if I get injured, it takes me 15 times longer to heal. But I can still do all that. I think the key to it is that folks, how can you? Because I taught a cardio kickboxing class last night for an hour and a half, and we rocked the whole class. I've got the only cardio kickboxing class of ladies and guys who have actually played the Apollo Theater. I called Billy and said, have you ever had a group that played Apollo Theater? I mean, my group is a pretty rough group. I've had ladies that have gone on to go into boxing and all like that. And I still teach at that level. And they said, well, how is that possible? I said, the key is, I think, you don't ever stop. You just never, I've never stopped. I've never had a 2-year period where I laid off and tried to come back, or I gave up and then came back. Or I think if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. Does that make any sense at all?
Makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of sense.
It's you just keep on pushing. Again, you don't ever stop. And a guy said, have you ever been injured? I said, slightly, but I don't ever remember being sick. Just recently, one of my black belts, Dr. Ben Gonzalez, decided that he wanted to be my wellness coach. He said, because, you know, he's one of they did a documentary on him on Discovery Channel, about an hour long, about all the lives he saved in Iraq and now at Walter Reed and all like that. And he got his black belt, he and his son, from me. He said, you know, Dennis, I want to be your wellness coach. I want to keep you well, because I know you're a vegetarian, you're vegan, you do all the right things, you've always tried to work out. I want to make sure that we keep you as a good example for the next generation. So I want to keep you well. Bring me all the paperwork and everything that you have from all the doctors you've had, and I'm going to look at all that, and I'm going to propose a program for you and all like that. I said, well, Doc, where would I find that? And he said, well, just go to your last doctors and the last places you've had checkups and all like that, and let me know. And so I said, well, I don't know. I can go over to Dundalk, but I don't know if Fort Hollyberry is still available. If they have that stuff. He said, what do you mean? That was the military place. I said, yeah, at 18, I went over there to get my checkup to be inducted. And they told me I was 4F. He said, wait a minute, are you telling me the last time you've been to a doctor was when you were 18? I said, and I don't recommend this to anybody. Right. I just didn't know any better. And I said, well, yeah, that's the last time I can remember. He said, you've never been in a hospital or anything? I said, well, to visit friends and people that were hurt or ailing. He said, but you've never been to a doctor. Now I'm feeling really bad. I'm thinking I should shut up. Right. He said, so you've never had I said, well, I've always been a martial artist. I've always trained 6 days a week. I became a vegetarian in 1969, back when nobody would, I don't know whether I read Dick Gregory or somebody. Right. I went from vegetarian to fruitarian to just don't eat at all, just drink, or just bathe in oils. And I said, I went through that whole thing. I said, no, I've never been and he scared me. He said, with your family history, and don't get me wrong, it's not genes. My father died early in life. All of my relatives have had high blood pressure or dialysis. My older brother died of a heart attack. My younger brother has a defibrillator and a pacemaker. So it's not just the genes. I realize now, since Dr. Ben told me, that it's not a matter of whether or not you have anything wrong. It's whether you've waited too late for me to catch it. Well, I will tell you that for the next 6 months, he sent me to every possible place you could go to get poked, and they put fluid in me and ran me through the tubes. They went from front end to the back end to just everything. Just scared. At the end of 4 or 5 months, I said, Doc, I'm scared to death, because I've never worried about this like this, because I'm just worried the last thing you told me, whether it's too late, whether you've caught whatever it is. Well, at the end, he kept turning, the stuff came in. He said, nothing. And finally, he just said, okay, well, you've lucked out. I guess the bad thing about this now, Master Brown, is I guess you will never go to a doctor. Right. I said, no. It's just the opposite. I am your poster boy. I am telling everybody, get every checkup you can possibly get. You can go do all the things you need, and then live the healthiest lifestyle you can live. And I do. I don't miss a checkup. I get my teeth cleaned on time every so many months. I don't miss anything at this point. I feel that I was blessed, and I tell him this. I was blessed. I feel like I had a mission, and I was allowed to do that. I said, but I was meant to meet you at this point. And now I have this wellness coach. And I look at that's a part of martial arts. It's a part of the learning experience. I've always, they said, well, what do you attribute? I said, it's just because I believe I just never stopped working out. I never stopped training. I've been fortunate enough to live in the gym 6 days a week. So it's worked for me. And many years, a brother named Shaka Ali, who was around many, many years ago, and he was the first one to turn me on and say, you need to straighten out the way you eat. Because I wasn't born a vegetarian, not like my daughters. My daughters have always been vegans since the day they were born. I grew up for a long period of time in West Virginia. I was a hillbilly. You know, we ate anything that moved and you could shoot, we ate. So it's not being holier than thou. It's just that I believe that I was fortunate enough to run through the martial arts, run through some very amazing people that gave me advice that changed my life. Yeah.
Right, right. And I'm grateful again that you came to share your story because you're inspiring me. I feel like I have to finish. I was so close. It's something that I wrestle with anytime I see a movie. My kids, I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're just seeing the remake of The Karate Kid with Jaden Smith. And they're around the house kicking and stuff, and they didn't realize that I could do a little bit, and so they're throwing things and they're trying to kick at me, and then I go into like a razor kick, and they're like, "Oh my God, Mom!" So
you brown belt. You did more than just a little bit. You know. Again, people say, "Well, yeah, but that was a long time ago." I don't know if you say, "Well, that was a long time ago. I have to start all over." Not really. It's like I tell people, it's overused, but it's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
You don't ever forget. You just have to get back in shape to do the
Exactly.
stuff you already know how to do.
Yeah.
But you never forget the skill.
Right.
So when I
No,
say
I
to
haven't.
you, I'm not being flippant. I say, finish the job. It's not going to take that much to finish it.
I have to because I remember the forms. I can do them in my head. I may, forget a piece here or there.
Yeah.
But all the kicks and stuff. But like you said, I was in the black belt club, so we would do, push-ups on top of push-ups and jumping jacks and, some really hardcore training that I know right now I can't do. And in terms of sparring, I know I became a powder puff at some point. I don't want to get hit, But, back in the day, I was a monster. I had me and one of my really good girlfriends, and we were a team, and we would go in, we would win all the tournaments, in the forums and the sparring. It was a really good time, and just going back to that and just how things are today, kids just aren't the same. And so I wanted to ask your opinion, if we were able to implement something like this and expose more children to, the martial arts, do you think that's something that may help? Because I know discipline is a huge thing, like respect and, having to, say yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, and, those things that we don't do anymore at home or anywhere else.
The 7 magic words: yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am, please, you're welcome, and thank you. We tell everybody there's nothing wrong with that. That's about the discipline that you learn. I think that, in my opinion, I don't know whether every kid will become a black belt, but I think that every kid in America could benefit from studying martial arts. And when we were coming up, every kid did tap dance or something. But I believe that there's a martial arts school on every corner, or in every strip mall I walk by.
Right.
Where's the martial arts school? There's so many.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, they're good schools and they're bad schools. So you have to take your time and research, because the other bad side of it is that it's not regulated.
Right.
Anybody who can take a little boxing, a little wrestling, a little grappling, and then open up a school. Even now, they don't have to have a system. It doesn't have to be Taekwondo or Kung Fu or Ishinru or anything. They can just say, I studied a little bit of a bunch of stuff, so I opened my own school and it's MMA. Well, I tell guys, that's great if you actually studied the art.
Right.
But sometimes the MMA stands for mixed up martial arts, because this is just some guy that just went out and learned a bunch of stuff.
Right, on YouTube.
He has no credentials.
Right.
He studied with nobody, but he thinks he's Bruce Lee. I made up my own style. That covers it. And you have to be careful with putting your kids with those folks. But I would tell every parent, every youngster should study martial arts or something like that teaches the life skills. Kids aren't disciplined anymore. Kids aren't focused anymore. Kids don't have manners like they did when we were coming up. Well, guys, back then, Grandma lived in every house.
Yeah.
And if you didn't get them straight, Grandma would make them go out there and cut their own switch.
Yes.
And then she would clear all that up. But today, they can go from the crib to the crib without going through anything that requires discipline and focus and concentration. Every kid can't make the football team. Every kid is not going to make the basketball or baseball team. Well, they'll learn it. Well, when they go into the military, they'll get them then. Well, every kid does not have to go into the military anymore.
Right.
Every kid doesn't go to a boarding school. So, and because Grandma's not there and Ma and Pa have to work, both have to work a job all during the day, you say, well, the kids today don't have that discipline. Well, where exactly are they going where someone's focusing on just that?
Right.
And so I say to them that there are other things that you can do to get it, but martial arts is a big one. I'm really big on finding a credible instructor, someone who's dedicated to discipline, to focus, to creating better people. Because again, that's what I think I'm into, and that is again the dirty little secret. I haven't really been into martial arts. They say, well, Dennis, you give one of the biggest tournaments in the country every year down here at the Gaylord Hotel at the National Harbor. I give the third biggest one next to Disney. Can't beat them. They got more money. And one in LA and a couple like that. But we give a huge thing, and I tell guys that even with that, it's not really about that. If you come down there, you'll see kids having a great time, working out, they're sparring, they're going through all the stuff, but you will see the most disciplined, the most respectful kids you will ever see in life if you go to a good martial arts school. And I say a good one because, again, you've seen the movie you referenced, the Karate Kid, with Jane Finken's son. Yeah, there was the bad school and there's the good school.
Yeah,
and unfortunately,
absolutely.
that's not just the movies. There's some guys and they're teaching just people how to be horrible people. Go out there and win at any cost, and it's about winning, and it's not about how you win. So you do have to take the time to find real instructors, and not just somebody wants to teach you martial arts, not just somebody wants to teach you how to fight, because that's a little bit of a different thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. We're talking to Grandmaster Dennis Brown here on the Elife Power Lunch. And this has been a great pleasure and an honor to have you here in the studio and to be able to share with us, significant events in your life. And I would want to ask you just one more question. What's next? What are you going to do now? What's on the horizon? What flyer did you just print out this morning that you want to share with us about what's going on?
Well, I got a couple of things going now because I mentioned that I give this U.S. Capitol Classics down at the National Harbor every year. I've been blessed. It's one of the biggest, most respected tournaments in the country, but that's not until August the 4th and 5th. Last year, I decided to do something different, and I hope people can appreciate it. I decided to give martial arts tournaments only for kids. So in April and December, I give a children's-only martial arts event, the one coming up April the 9th at the Ritchie Coliseum over at Maryland University, only for kids. It's not just that, it's not everybody wins, but everybody's a winner. So it's not one of them, everybody's going to get a trophy, but it's set up so that I can use this tournament to help empower youngsters. I do something, again, that's I've been blessed to do. I used to go to China every 2 years, go back and train and take adults to train. A couple of years ago, I decided to start something called Dennis Brown's Classic Karate Tours, and I take people over there to study at the Shaolin Temple, and of course I take them everywhere. I take them to China. I take them by to meet Wu Ben, who is my instructor, but what's significant, he's also Jet Li's teacher, and they get a chance to meet those guys. Let me whisper this, you don't really come back a master of any type, but you do get a chance to say, I studied at the Shaolin Temple, I met these people, I got a chance to see the culture that produced martial arts, the humbleness, with all the other crazy stuff that's there. You get to find out what the monks are all about. So I do that every year. So I keep a number of things going. I still run my school. That's why I don't have 22 anymore. I have one school where I teach. I can teach every kid personally, but I still give my tournaments. I still do the trips to China. And it's not just for my students. Anyone who wants to go and have that experience, I welcome to come on out and go with me.
That is great. That is great. Well, once again, we want to thank you for coming on. This has been an interview with Brother Grandmaster Dennis Brown, and somebody who, grew up on wrong street. But look at
but
I've
been to Russia, I've been to Israel, I've met all the greats.
That's it. And has left an indelible impression on my mind, and in that he told me 20, 25 years ago, just be able to say when you're at my age that you've been some places and you've seen some things, you met some people, and I can say that especially, today, knowing you and when we saw each other, you came in the restaurant, when we saw each other, I said, hey, I recognize that guy, but I said, no, there's a significance about him, and that's why I walked back on you. I said, well, wait a minute, and then you told me who you were. I was like, okay.
I was just here to get some good food.
There you go. There you go.
Let me just say that I know all the good places to eat.
There we go. Well, great. We appreciate that as well. Chris, it's been a great show.
Yes, most definitely. I'm looking forward to just continuing. I am going to research. I'm going to see if I can go and get back into it. So, again, I thank you for being an inspiration for that. And as you guys know, it is a new week, and we have some great events coming up here at Everlasting Life Vegan Restaurant. Tomorrow is Wednesday, and so we have the Health, Wealth, and Knowledge of Self workshop series. Come out. We have a great topic for you. If you want to come early at 6 p.m., you can grab a bite to eat, but the presentation starts promptly at 7 p.m., and we'll be here until about 8:30, 9-ish, discussing the topic and having a great time. On Fridays...
Wait a minute, let me jump in there.
Oh, sure.
The discussion again, because we're continuing on with women's reproductive health.
Okay.
And that's going to be the conversation. So we invite you to come out if you're a woman, if you're a man, and you have women in your life, and you at least have to have one, well, had one, or have one, whatever, in the sense that you came from a mother.
Right.
That female reproductive health is really a critical issue today. The most unnecessarily performed surgery in the United States of America is hysterectomies on black women. Not just hysterectomies, but hysterectomies on black women. And many women believe that it is their only way out from the pain, the long cycle, the heavy bleeding, the clotting, the anemia, the list goes on of all the things associated with that. And now we're learning that there are some things that we can do. We can regain and recover that power and bring it back home, and we can take charge of our health. So those are things that are going to be taking place on this Wednesday, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Come on out, check it out, learn, be prepared to engage so that you can change your life and the life of the women in your family and your life. Go ahead, Chris.
Yes, okay. So, and then Friday, we have movie night every Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. What's the movie for this week?
The movie for this week, it hasn't completely been locked in,
Okay.
but I believe it's going to be Aquila and the Bee.
Wow. Okay, I love that movie. So, guys, you definitely have to come out. Bring the kids for this one. It's a great movie. Lawrence Fishburne and what's her name? I know her name. I can see her face.
And I can too. Yep, but we're
Okay,
going to
yeah,
keep it moving.
we'll be here. It's going to come to me afterwards. And don't forget, every first Saturday we have the Solstice Shopping Bazaar. So come out, support Black business, get some great products, candles, handbags, everything that you can imagine is here from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on first Saturdays, right here at Everlasting Life Vegan Restaurant. That's 9185 Central Avenue, right here in Capitol Heights.
Great. Well, it's been a great show.
Yes.
And this is the Elife Power Lunch Show we're talking about with Chris Murray and myself, Dr. Baruch. We are going to have another great program in just a couple of minutes, so you all stay tuned here on the Elife Network.
See you in a minute.
Thank you.
Got that power, stop until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we got that power. until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we got that power. Won't stop until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we got that power. Until we get it, come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we got that power. Won't stop until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we got that power. Until we get it, come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we've got that power. Won't stop until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we've got that power. until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we got that power. Won't stop until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we got that power. Until we get it, come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we've got that power. Won't stop until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we've got that power. Until we get it, come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we've got that power. And we make sure that you know it. Got that pride, go ahead and show it. Stand up, fight back, no time for hoping. Recognize we've got that power. Won't stop until we get it. Come on down if you wet it. Wake up, let's go, we're on a mission. Recognize we